All right, we are back for another week of PB Betting College Football Podcast. Mr. Paisley, great to be back. Decent slate this week. We kind of talked last week. We thought maybe it wasn't the greatest slate in the world, but after going through some of the games here this Wednesday, we actually have a decent slate, a little better, I think, than we thought.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Usually in weeks like this, usually the games are pretty crazy or you get some upsets. So there's been upsets every week. So I think it's just going to be another crazy filled week when you think it's, going to die down. There should be some good matchups. So hopefully they live up to it. We'll get into some of the big ones. But I think we're in store for some nice games and some betting angles that we could attack here.
Yeah, we got games every day, like we were saying last week. We got all the MAC games going on, Conference USA. It's Wednesday night. I think we have a couple of games even tonight that you probably already know the results of if you're listening. But ton of great games. Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech last night. We were just talking, just the middle of the week craziness that we see in that game. That was a thriller, went in overtime. So as we get into the later in the fall, Thanksgiving time, it's not only is it college football playoff approaching a couple weeks from the rankings, but we also have all these crazy during the week games that just get us by. So very good time of the year, at least for me, especially with Penn State being as bad as they are. At least I can look forward to all the other chaos going on around us.
Yeah, the weekday, don't sleep on the weekday match. We always preach that here. Some Conference USA, the MAC will get going, I think next week or the week after. So you can still win them the same amount of money on these games, even if they're during the week or on Saturday. So definitely some good angles. We're putting out picks usually every day. So, trying to make you guys some money during the week as well. And then hopefully we'll come big this Saturday as well.
And as always, we appreciate everybody tuning in here, listening. If you found us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Feel free to give a like on the video, comments, also on X, DM us, let us know any games or thoughts that you have. And then, of course, on Spotify, we appreciate it. Tracking the views, trying to get the views up a little bit here on the second half of the season. But as always, we do appreciate it. We're going to preview about 7-8 games, better games of the week, tighter spreads. We have some picks at the end of the video. And then, of course, we got our Underdog Parlay of the week, which we're getting close on. We hit a couple at the beginning of the year. We've been going back and forth since then. We've been hitting one of the two. Got another good one here in store at the end. Paisley, might as well go right down to the south. Number 8, Ole Miss, going to number 13, Oklahoma. A little battle of the SEC, kind of under the radar, like really highly ranked teams. You got number 8 and number 13. Ole Miss, of course, coming off the loss, and then Oklahoma, they had the loss to Texas a couple of weeks ago, but still very good. Both of these teams still have their entire season in front of them, and dare I say, this could be a playoff eliminator game for the loser of this, because you go now to the SEC, you have 2 losses. At this point of the season, every game is so important. The spread's only 4.5, so we're expecting a really tight game. Could Ole Miss bounce back after last week's Georgia loss, and could Oklahoma keep the gas pedal down here in a must-win game? Totals at 54.5. Paisley, what are your thoughts on this one? Ole Miss at Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's a good one to start the day at noon. I think this is a sneaky good matchup. So I'm going to roll with Lane Kiffin again. I like Ole Miss in this spot, getting the points here, and I do like the over. So I do like them correlated here. I think there'll be enough points on each side, and I do like Ole Miss to maybe stay close. I think they can win this one outright. The line is it's moving up as we speak. It was at 5.5 at some other books. The total was 52, 53, now up to 54. So a little Oklahoma and over money for this game to start. But I just like how Ole Miss played last week. We talked about on the recap pod going into Georgia, had a great first 3 quarters, and then just kind of fell apart there late. Kind of ran out of a little gas. Their defense couldn't get off the field against Georgia's run game. And Georgia just has those great second half adjustments that we talk about all the time. So I feel like, you got to give your props to Georgia there. But like we said, I think we were both impressed with Ole Miss, how they handled that adversity. Now you got another tough test. It's at noon, not at night. Going to Oklahoma here, never an easy place to play. On the Oklahoma side, John Mateer is looking a little bit better. It was a weird game against South Carolina. Just looking at some of the stats, only threw for 148. They really rushed the ball well, ran for 171. I think South Carolina is just really down the dumps, as we've been on that all year, and we'll get to them in a couple games. So I think, that's just a bad data point. They're not really up to standards right now that they want to be. So, I thought they looked better, but still not like that dominant performance. It was more defensive, grinded out game. I still don't think Mateer looks 100%. He'll get better each week, I feel like, with that hand injury, but just a tough injury to come back from that quickly here. So, just one bad sack, one bad fall on it, could really tense up and, hurt him going forward. But I think the matchup's going to be Ole Miss's offense against Oklahoma defense, just good on good there. The Ole Miss quarterback looked nice and comfortable the first 3 quarters. They were able to run the ball a little bit on Georgia, just really was doing what they can. Definitely a better defense here in Oklahoma, but I still think they'll have enough success. I was just really impressed with them going on the road there, spreading it around. Lane had a great game plan. I think he'll have another one here. So I expect Ole Miss to move the ball a little bit, especially early like they did against Georgia, have a good script. But I do think Oklahoma's offense, too, will have some success, at least running the ball. That's the one area we talked about, too. I just don't like Ole Miss's defense overall. I think they're a little leaky, a little overvalued. They're still number 8 in the poll, but I think it's more their offense that's leading them to this. And then Oklahoma, I just feel like their defense has been really good, but the competition hasn't been that great that they faced offensively. Some of their best offenses they faced this year has been Auburn and Texas. And, that's not really 2 offenses that scream, and even Michigan going back to that week 2 game. So I feel like they have not seen an offense like this. I still think Oklahoma's defense is very good, probably top 10, top 15 in the country. One of the best units on that side of the ball, but I just don't think they've seen an offense like this Ole Miss team. I think they'll be able to move the ball, but I think Oklahoma will too. I think it's going to be a close one, maybe, not similar to that Georgia game. I don't think it'll be that high scoring, but I could see this going into the, high 20s, low 30s here. So I like over the total and give me Ole Miss to maybe pull out an outright upset here. I think they get this one. Kind of fell part lead against Georgia, but I think they get one and put Oklahoma, down the rankings a little bit here.
Yeah, that's a good analysis there. Ole Miss too. I'd like to see just how they respond. They came out, they looked great against Georgia early on. They really controlled that game. Kind of just got ripped out right from underneath them in the fourth quarter. So I want to see how Ole Miss responds here. I think they're definitely good enough to get the outright win. That's why I do like them with the points, 4.5 points. That's a lot of points. I mean, especially in how we talked about how evenly and some of these. If you're not Alabama, just this kind of like tier 2 or 1B, however you want to look at it, of the SEC, which has all these teams, Oklahoma in it, and of course Ole Miss too. So I want to see how Ole Miss comes out. I want to see how they respond early in this game. The one thing I am a little bit worried, like you hinted to, and it was their weak spot all year, is their defense. I just am not, sold there, of course, especially how they handled that second half against Georgia, especially that fourth quarter. So if Oklahoma does come out and get to an early lead, I'll be seriously worried. I think Oklahoma could run away with this game if that's how Ole Miss starts. But if Ole Miss could start similar to how they did in Georgia, get a lead, score some points. I do think we're going to get some points in this one. The total is a little higher than I guess average for college at 54.5. Not really high, but expect some offense in this one. I think it's going to be close. But yeah, lean Ole Miss with the points just because I'm getting 4.5 with them. If it was the other way, I'd probably, take Oklahoma if it was more points here. But 4.5 is, or less points, I should say. 4.5 is just plenty to take Ole Miss here in this spot, especially for how good their offense is. They can keep scoring. I'm not worried about that. So like Ole Miss, possibly could get the win as well, I think.
Yeah, and kind of just the numbers wise, I wouldn't mind taking a 3.5 if it goes down to it. But like I said, it's been kind of going up, so maybe we could catch a 6.5. I don't think it'll go to 7. Now, if you like the over, we always talk about 55, 51, kind of being some key numbers in college football. So if you like the over, maybe bet that right away. Try and get that underneath 55. And if you like the Ole Miss side, maybe wait a little bit. Maybe we could get a little more points and get a little more meat on the bone there.
Yeah, and Ole Miss also, so they scored at least 40 points in 3 of the last 5. Now, granted, one of those games was against Tulane, but still 2 SEC opponents here, and they scored 35 in the loss against Georgia. So look for Ole Miss to score, and yeah, we'll see how Oklahoma could respond. Also, yeah, John Mateer, I didn't really mention him, but Mateer, coming off the injury, like you said, he didn't look great last week against South Carolina, but if Oklahoma does want to pull away here, expect him to play well. Will be fun to watch, see how he responds. But yeah, that's that one. That's at noon on Saturday. Ole Miss, Oklahoma, probably the best game, or I guess I should say the highest ranked game out there. We also got Vandy that we'll touch on in a bit, but good one to start our day off on Saturday. And we got also another game. This one not in the SEC, but USF South Florida, possibly the Group of Five front runner. At least was after they beat Boise. I know there's a few teams in the mix now. Number 18 USF laying 4.5. They go to Memphis. This total is high at 63.5. Saw a lot of people talking about how Memphis has the chance here to upset them. Paisley, interested to hear your thoughts here. The spread's pretty close. Memphis also one of those bubble teams. They kind of control their own destiny. Obviously not as much as USF, but if Memphis runs the table and wins that conference, they're going to be right there looking for that 12 seed as well. So this is going to be really fun to watch. Group of Five at noon, South Florida at Memphis.
Yeah, I like USF in this matchup. They've been rolling. I mean, they've been secretly rolling ever since that Miami loss, putting up well over 35, 40, 45 points these last couple of games against some pretty decent opponents. Florida Atlantic, that was a game a lot of people were betting Florida Atlantic, and they ended up winning by 35. And then we also know about the North Texas game. We touched on that 2 weeks ago in that kind of pick 'em spot, and they really just dominated that game from start to finish. So I think they're the more trusted side in this one. I know they're going on the road. Memphis' home crowd's not really a raucous environment of some of these bigger schools. One thing to note that we probably won't know until close for the game time is there's a quarterback injury for Memphis. The reports are kind of shaky. He got pretty banged up. They're kind of leaning. I don't think he's going to play. But they said he's not afraid to play his other three quarterbacks. So I don't know what's going to happen if they go to that, if they're going to do a 3-quarterback system there. So that's why the total I'm just going to stay away from. If I knew I had a healthy quarterback in Memphis, love to take the over here because both these offenses are electric. Both defenses definitely struggle. So that's why it's up there. But without the quarterback uncertainty, this line was actually USF +3 before the game started Saturday. Then Memphis went out and lost to UAB with a backup quarterback as a 21-point favorite. USF looked good as their 21-point favorites, and they covered the spread easily. So that's why this line flipped. And then now the injury news kind of went above the key of 3.5 there to 4.5. So I did play some USF 4.5 earlier in the week. I think if the Memphis quarterback gets announced out, I think it'll probably go up to 6.5, maybe 7. So I think you're kind of sitting at kind of a dead number here, but for a road team in a big matchup, that is kind of a bigger spread to lay. But I like this USF team case. I really think they could do some damage with what they do on offense. Now, they like to run the ball a lot and to set up their play action or their seam routes down the field. If you watch that North Texas game, they kind of do the veer and shoot offense where it's very spread out, kind of like Tennessee and Heupel does. So if Memphis has trouble stopping the run, it's going to be a very long day. I think USF could control this easily. Memphis's run defense is their only thing they could kind of hang their hat on. So if they are going to pull the upset here, if they do have a backup quarterback or a banged up quarterback, they're going to have to stop the run to have a chance here. But I think USF's just too much. I think they're a buzzsaw, and I really think they could do some damage in the playoff this year. I think they're different than that Boise team that was in there last year. It was kind of just a one-trick pony. This is a good team with a good quarterback, good system, electric offense, and the defense just does enough. They're not a great defense, but I think they have such a unique style that it's going to give these teams fits if they potentially get to the playoff, which we'll get to that in a couple weeks. But I like this USF team. I think they roll here, and I think they win by 7+ here.
I like it. Bold pick. I don't think I could go against South Florida because I was on them when they played North Texas and they just absolutely ripped them apart. That was a bad bet. I think we were both kind of on North Texas going into that one. So hard to go against USF. I don't think I'm going to go against them here. I'm also not entirely sure. I love the pick. I don't know if I'll put it on my slate on Saturday, USF -4. But that's a great note about Memphis quarterback. I was unaware of that. So yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind. Also, it's interesting you brought the playoff Paisley because USF, they did not look great against Miami. They did get beat pretty much on all sides of the ball when they played that Miami team early in the season at 40. I think there was 49-12. I pulled it up here. So I do agree. I think they are really good, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the slate of Power 4 teams that they'd be playing against because I'm still not entirely sold on them. I think there's still just a little bit of a talent gap when they play, higher end teams. I think maybe it'd be fun to watch. I'm not going to say it's impossible for them to get a win there, but I like the pick. I like the bold pick saying USF has a shot to possibly make a run or beat a team or two.
Yeah, I think that Miami game was more just a spot play. They were coming off the Florida win, and they had Boise week 1, so that was their 3rd week in a row, riding a lot of emotion, and Miami was just kind of sitting there waiting for them. So I feel like I'll give them a little pass there, but it does depend on their matchup and who they get. Like I'm just thinking if they get like a Texas Tech, I think they can honestly beat them outright. So it's going to be dependent who they get in that matchup, but I'm telling you, let's see what happens. Hopefully they win this game and win out and hopefully get there in that spot because I think they're a fun
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think if they win out, I don't think there's any. Is there any other even group of 4 or group of 5 team ranked right now? I'd have to look at their rankings. I don't even think so.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so they easily control their own destiny. So I know even with a loss, because they have that loss to Miami, they could probably lose a game. Well, I don't know. If you lose a game, then you have to win the conference. It will let that all play out, but nonetheless, this is a big one in the American. Both teams still very much in it. Memphis 6-1 and undefeated, or sorry, also 6-1 South Florida with the one out of conference loss. So good one there in the group of 5 with playoff implications there with South Florida. 3rd game here, we're going to go back to the SEC. We got number 4, Alabama, which of course has that horrible loss early in the season to Florida State. I wrote Alabama off. So did a lot of people. It looks like we were completely wrong because since then they've really dominated. They've looked great in the SEC. They've won all their games. Difficult schedule. Nonetheless, they go to Columbia, South Carolina, Paisley. South Carolina, really good team last year. They got hot late. They had a really good game with Alabama at the beginning of the last year. If anybody remembers, they nearly pulled off the upset. Probably should have. I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot that game. South Carolina has a chance to redeem themselves. The season has not been going their way. Their head coach now also on the hot seat with another dozen coaches around the country. Total in this one's 47.5. Kind of a sleepy line here at only 12.5. You'd think a lot of people might be hammering Alabama, but does South Carolina have any gas left, Paisley? Could they possibly pull off the upset or at least keep this one close?
Yeah, we talked about this spot coming off of these 4 big games for Alabama, 4 ranked opponents. It's a perfect spot for South Carolina. I'd normally be on that. I love my spot plays. If I could have a lot of factors going against, and it seems to be working this year if you've been taking those, kind of external factors. But I think I have to make a little, note here because South Carolina is so dead. I was on them last week, had a couple bets in that game, and unfortunately watched that whole game against Oklahoma. And they could barely get past midfield. Like it was bad. So I think they should have a little more success, obviously, against Alabama's defense than Oklahoma's. What happened to Lenore Sellers? I thought we were having Heisman talk before the year. All this stuff just has not been doing anything. Now there's a lot of other problems, not just him. But so in this matchup case, I'm gonna finally bet Alabama. I've been against them so many times. I do like them as a 1-unit play here, minus 12.5, as long as it's under the 14. I think that's comfortable there. Kind of like the over a little bit too. I just think Alabama's going to put up a ton of points. I think the defense might give up a little bit here. I just thought it was a little low at like 47, 46 when it opened up. So I could see Alabama getting into the 35, 38 range, and then you just need South Carolina just to get a touchdown and a field goal potentially. So I like Alabama here. I know it's a tough spot. I know, I've been doubting them the last couple of weeks against the number. I still like this team a lot, but they just keep coming through. Now, maybe this is the week it does fall apart, but they really battle tested. I really thought they'd fall against Missouri or look a little, struggling in that game. They look great. They look clean. They look sharp. Tennessee, kind of same thing. I know there was that big play right before halftime that everyone's talking about, but I still think they controlled that game. I think if it was even close, so I just really trust this Alabama offense. I think they're not anything to be worried about. I think they're going to put up points on anybody. And you look at the South Carolina defense just really struggling overall. I mean, both offense and defense, more on the offensive side. But I just think it's going to be a tough battle for them. I think they're just in a tough spot as a program right now. Shane Beamer, talking about going to Virginia Tech, maybe obviously with his dad that was coaching there. So is he 1 foot out the door? It was just supposed to, they were ranked, 10, 11 to begin the year. Like you just had all these expectations, but I think last year's team was just a lot better and a lot built differently. And we kind of highlighted that in the preview pod before the year started. So I think if there was ever a year to get Alabama, it was last year. They kind of missed their chance. I know it's a great spot here, but I just think there's not a lot of juice with the South Carolina program. The fans kind of getting a little disgruntled. I think Alabama comes in there and takes care of business and wins by 14 plus.
I like it. Paisley, I was on Alabama when they played Georgia. He called me crazy. He said I didn't know anything about college football, something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was, but
Those people in the
I was,
comments, not me.
I was on Alabama when they played Vandy. I took them when they played Missouri, and I liked them last week when they played Tennessee. Paisley, that's 4 in a row. I am taking South Carolina with the points this week.
Oh, wow.
I find it to be a little bit of a sleepy spot. I can't understand the line. I agree with all the points you made that make sense. I think Alabama is much better, and there are a lot of question marks surrounding South Carolina right now, and it's not been a way. The season has not been great, but you have a spot. You're at home. I know it doesn't mean a ton. Like you said, the fans aren't thrilled, but Alabama's got a traveler coming off of all these 4 weeks of tough games, national spotlight. I just think the spread, I mean, it's a weird line. I think it's telling us something. I think Alabama's gonna come out a little sleepy. I think South Carolina probably will not pull off the upset, but I think they could cover this. I think 12 and a half, or whatever it is, 13 and a half, 12 and a half, even 11 and a half. I like them here. I think they could keep this game close. I think we're going to get one last jolt out of South Carolina. I think this is it. This is pretty much their season. I mean, really, when the team, starts to lose a bunch of games, they're out of the playoff race. The last thing that they could do is play spoiler. And who better to play spoiler on than a team that has bullied you in the SEC for really the last, 15, 20 years, Alabama dominating them. So, I just like the spot here for South Carolina. It's totally just a spot play. I think a neutral field, in an SEC title game, I'd probably lay, 25, 30 points with Alabama. But in this spot, I think they have a chance to keep it close. Could totally backfire in this game. Alabama might just go out and blow them out. But I like the spot play. Give me South Carolina with the points. And I think also I will say that team, Alabama, week 1 that lost to Florida State, it's still somewhere in there, Paisley. There's still some of that team in there. We haven't seen it. It's been MIA for 4 weeks. They've dominated, but that team is somewhere in there. I think we're going to get the best football of the year out of South Carolina. And I think it might be surprisingly close. I think you're going to be on your ESPN Score Center app here late in the third quarter, and you're going to be like, wow, how is this a field goal game right now? That's my prediction here. So give me South Carolina with all the points.
That's bold. But I feel like we switch bodies or something in their case. Now I'm on Alabama. You're going against them. But yeah, I mean, it's a great spot. You can't go against the spot. The line is super fishy. That's why I thought it'd be 14, 15, maybe even 16.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff now gets baked into these pregame numbers before they let them out. So it is kind of hard to judge. But yeah, the line is definitely fishy, but I'll take the bait, because I've been going against him so much, and I just hated seeing Ty Simpson just playing at such an unreal level. I just hate going against that guy. And one more bonus play, too. I do like the Alabama team total. It was around 30 and a half, 31. I think they score 5 touchdowns nice and handily here. So I kind of like the Alabama team total along with the minus 12 and a half.
So big shout out to Jackpot Carolina. I know he's a big South Carolina fan out there. Gave some hard times early in the season, but rooting for the Gamecocks this week, definitely. So we'll see. Me and Paisley going head to head here on that.
He's not gonna like me anymore. Shout out Jackpot, but it's okay. I'll take the hate.
All right, let's go to the next one. SEC number 15 Missouri at number 10 Vanderbilt. Paisley, first time in 17 years. ESPN College Game Day going to be on the campus of Vanderbilt. They're going to a home game there. 2.5 point favorite. We saw it last week against LSU. Now we're seeing it again. Little top 15 showdown, a lot on the line here in Nashville. This should be a great game, probably the game of the week for me. Just fun to see Vanderbilt up there. Also Missouri, a dark horse team in the SEC. We didn't really talk about much, preseason, not a lot of eyes on them, but they've turned out to be really good. They got the big win over Auburn in overtime. Everybody, or I should say a lot of people are on Auburn, so this is going to be a really good one. 2 good quarterbacks, Diego Pavia and my buddy over there, Bo Prabula. So it's going to be a battle there between dual threat guys. Going to be a fun one. Total 52.5. This one in Vanderbilt. Paisley, what do you think here between these two? Mizzou at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I can't believe Game Day. This is their second or third time going there. I thought this would be the first time ever at Vanderbilt, but love this pick here, Case. Might be a lock. I didn't lock them last week, and I was so pissed. They were so close to being my second lock, but we're going to lock them, I think, this week. We're going to go back to the Vanderbilt Commodores here. laying 2.5. Just love them in this spot here again. This is my team. I've been riding them a couple weeks in a row now. Let's do it one more time against a team that I've been looking to fade, and I have been fading and almost got a win with Auburn. We're not going to bring up Auburn, hopefully the rest of the season here, or maybe later in the picks that we get to later. But I do not like this Missouri team. I just think your buddy Bo Pribula just doesn't have it in the passing game. You know, if you want to win these big-time games or big upsets, got to be able to throw the ball. Just looking at, he was 23 for 40, 252, and 2 interceptions last week against Auburn. They do have a great back in Ahmad Hardy, as we mentioned earlier in the season. So I think they're going to really try and rely on this run game. But I think Vanderbilt's defense is a little underrated. I think they're, didn't have a great showing against LSU. They were able to move the ball a little bit. But I think they'll be able here to, against an offense where they know what's coming. They know they just want to run the ball, and they're run heavy. I think they'll load up the box here a little bit. They're kind of easy to stop. Just didn't really like how Missouri looked in that road performance at Auburn. Now they got to go on the road again to a top 10 Vanderbilt team. Can't believe we're saying that. But the main story is Diego Pavia. I just love this guy. I love having him, backing him with my money. Great quarterback, makes things happen, kind of a little Johnny Manziel-esque. They have a good run game. If they get a lead on you, it's very hard to jump back on it and get a lead. So that'll be something I'll be looking for, see how Vanderbilt jumps out here. You kind of say, after that big LSU win, maybe they'll be down a little bit. Well, now you got game day coming there, and first time in 17 years, like you said, that should get the spirits back up. So I think it's a great spot. Love that game day's coming here. And maybe lean to the over too at 52.5, but don't love it. But this is going to be a 2-unit. Lock it up. Vanderbilt minus 2.5. I think they should control the game from the start, and then just kind of carry that over. I just can't believe it's the same line as LSU. I don't think highly of LSU. We'll get to them in their big matchup this week. But I don't know. It's tough with some of these SEC teams. So I think LSU and Missouri are very close, and I'd maybe take LSU a little more slightly. That's how much I don't like this Missouri team. So I just can't believe it's still under 3. Grab it at the 2.5. Love this play here. Love that we don't have to lay over a field goal. So give me Vanderbilt big time here. Case Diego Pavia keeping the Heisman alive and a little playoff. I called it a couple weeks ago. I said Vanderbilt might be my sleeper at the SEC and run the table. Maybe playing the SEC championship, but definitely maybe get to a playoff spot. Now this would be another big step here if they get this win.
I made a similar prediction about with Missouri a few weeks ago, Paisley. So it looks like I was. So unfortunately, I'm on the other side of that one. No, I was probably gonna go all in on Missouri if they knocked off Alabama. Unfortunately, they didn't. They did surprise me a week ago, though. I think we were both on Auburn. They did pull out the win in double overtime. That was a big win. They needed that one. But I'm in agreement here. I like Vandy minus 2.5. I mean, come on, you're at home. They just got the big win against LSU, same spread. LSU still a lot of talent around that team. So impressive win there. The one thing I'm confused on is, like you said, the line. I don't know why it's only 2.5. I'd think it'd be 3.5. Make you kind of think about that point a little bit, that field goal point, maybe even 4. The only thing I could think of is they have the common opponent in Alabama. They both lost to Alabama. And of course, Mizzou played them really tight. Vandy did too, but if you're just a guy that's looking at the scores, fourth quarter Alabama pulled away late. Maybe they're just trying to, in Vegas, you get some of those bettors that some people don't really watch these teams, and you're kind of just looking at points. So maybe that's why. Maybe we know something that other people don't. I don't really consider myself an expert here, but Paisley, I'm in agreement. Also, like Vandy, will almost for sure be on my card on Saturday unless something unforeseen happens. I do think Missouri will fight. They're going to fight hard. I don't think it's going to be, just a shoe-in easy win. It's going to be a battle. But Vandy at home, it's their season. Coming off of last year, you saw they were building something. I just think they're kind of a step higher than Missouri right now. I think they're just overall a better team. And my criticism on Vanderbilt against Alabama was I just said Alabama has all the talent. They have, the guys – they're just have more athletes than them, and that's kind of was the tiebreaker for those two. Well, you don't really have that problem here between Missouri and Vanderbilt. They are more evenly matched. Maybe Missouri has a few more athletes. I don't know. We'd have to look at the recruiting class over the last 3 years, but nonetheless, the gap is not near what it is for Vandy Alabama or Vandy LSU. And there's Vanderbilt beating LSU and playing Alabama really tight. So give me Vanderbilt. Also, I like them. They're at home. I think 2.5. Certainly be on my card.
Yeah, the line is definitely suspicious, and it touched 3 a couple times, but it keeps getting knocked back down to 2.5, so definitely some two-way action there. And then just one more point, I was really surprised at how well Vanderbilt moved the ball against LSU's defense. We know LSU is struggling, but their defense has been very good this year, and they put up, I think, what was it, 31 or 35 points, really controlled the game through their run game. So if they could score in that LSU defense, I think they could have the same success here against a lesser Missouri defense.
It'd be fun in Nashville on Saturday. All right, moving on out of the SEC for now. We got one more at the end of the show. But number 23, Illinois, going all the way out west to the Washington Huskies. Washington here, not ranked, but Paisley, 4.5-point favorite here in this spot. Washington is the favorite here. They host Illinois. Illinois has 2 losses to the number 1 and number 2 team in the country. And I know they got absolutely beat down by Indiana. And I was all over that a week ago or a couple weeks ago when I was still commenting on it. However, Paisley, I feel that Illinois is getting a little bit of disrespect here. I feel like they're getting a little bit disrespected. You had the win over USC, not a bad USC team, not an elite USC team, but it showed they're competent. Okay, it showed Illinois is a competent team to be ranked. They got the win against USC. They're getting 4.5 points here to Washington that also looked good at times, but also not so good at times. They got crushed last week by Michigan. I might be missing something here, Paisley, because my gut says I want to take Illinois. I don't know, but interested what your thoughts are.
Yeah, this one's tough. I do like the over in this game. That is a play I'll probably have on the card. It's kind of come down a little bit. I was trying to look like, why is it coming down, or what's the deal here? Maybe some weather, but the Washington weather is always crazy, so it might not be too predictable. So just something to keep in mind. But I don't think it's going to be like a heavy rainstorm like we saw in that Notre Dame USC game, but possibly some weather. But I would lean Washington on the side, but I don't love it. I really could see other, factors, kind of like Illinois on a first gut check, then looked into it a little bit, kind of like Washington a little bit, but I don't even know if I'm going to play a side in this one. I think I'm going to go with the over. I just look at both these offenses. I like both these quarterbacks. I think they'll be able to move the ball well. Illinois also coming off of a bye, just looking at their schedule here. Washington puts up a lot of points, except for that Ohio State game, as we know. But besides that, they've been putting up a lot of points, and the Michigan game, obviously, last week did not put up a lot. Washington, I don't know. They're a tough team to crack, Case, because every time they have a little step up in class, they really haven't looked good. And I was watching that Rutgers game. It was Rutgers was dominating them the whole first half and a little bit into the third quarter, and then they just turned it on and scored a ton of fourth quarter points to make it look a little bit better. So, I don't know. Everyone loves this Washington team, and they should have been ranked last week. And then they couldn't even move the ball, and they got lucky before the half just to put up 7, or else they would have got shut out. So I don't know. I just don't know what to make of this Washington team. They've been so hit or miss all year. I've been back and forth on them. I feel like every time I try and back them, they look terrible. And then the public seems to really like this Washington team. I just don't know if they have it. But this Illinois team, I agree with you. I think they're a little disrespected. I think everyone's really piling on them a little bit. But they do have that USC win at home. It looks good. They held their own against Ohio State. It wasn't a complete wash, but, it's a tough data point with that. So this will be a nice evenly matched teams here going at it. So in this one, I just like the over. I just think both defenses are not that great. I think both offenses could find some success here and get over that key of 55, like we talked about, at 54.5. But I know you do like your Illini here, and I don't hate it either way. I might lean Washington on the side, but this was a very, very tough one to pick on the side for me.
Yeah, Washington gave up 24 to Washington State, by the way. Washington State team that was playing really, really bad at the time. I know they played a little bit better since then. Also, down bad against Maryland. They came back, won, also gave up a ton of yards against Rutgers, and then looked bad last week. So I'm not sold on there at all for Washington. More to come later on Illinois, Washington. But we'll move on. We'll move on for now. The Big 12, number 11, BYU at Iowa State. Iowa State laying 2.5 here. Totals 49.5. Paisley, BYU. A lot of people were on them, or against them, I should say, a week ago. They got the big win in the Holy War over Utah. Here they are again, going on the road Another huge game for Big 12 implications. BYU's trying to remain unbeaten. It seems like they're kind of just got to run the table. It's weird, even though being in the Big 12, they have that group of five feeling. And I know I just completely disrespected BYU, but it's like if they lose a game, it feels over for them. It just, we've seen it time and time again. Like this team needs to run the table. I feel like if they want a real shot to make the playoff, nobody's really talking about them. Here they are ranked 11th, but there's still not a lot of hype around them, even after getting the big win over Utah. Another huge opportunity for both teams, but really BYU traveling to Iowa State. Cyclones laying 2.5. Like I said, not ranked. Total 49.5. Paisley, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I like the home team here. Actually, I'm going to be fading BYU. I think we were both on them last week. Got us a nice cover and win outright. I feel like this is just deja vu with BYU again. If you look at BYU at Navy, I feel like it's the same thing every year. Like they get undefeated, everyone's kind of hyping them up, or they're under the radar, and then they finally play some teams, and it just crash landings the last couple of years. So I feel like BYU's on a similar track. You look at their next 4 games. They got this Iowa State matchup at Texas Tech, home against TCU, at Cincinnati. I mean, that's for the top couple teams in the Big 12. So wouldn't be shocked if they lose 3 out of 4 here. I really like their story, really like their quarterback. We kind of broke that down in the Utah game last week. But that's an emotional game. That's a very, in-state rivalry, storm the field after. It was a lot of emotions going on there. They had to come back a little bit in the game. So now you got to pick yourselves up and go to Iowa State, which is kind of a tough place to play. It's not the best, top 25 home field advantage, but I feel like it's a sneaky good home field advantage. Matt Campbell's a very good coach. Rocco Beck, the senior or junior experienced quarterback. They kind of had some struggles the last couple games. I remember watching that Colorado game last week. Colorado kind of controlled that, but that was a little fluky. Iowa State was moving the ball, just had a lot of turnovers and fluky stuff in the Colorado territory. They had that stinker against Cincinnati, but then fought all the way back and only lost by 8 in that one. But I think this is a good Iowa State team. I just like the spot. This is shocking that they were the favorite to open up. I think that was rightfully so. I thought maybe Iowa State would be getting, plus 2.5, plus 3, and I was really going to look to take them here. But I do still like them at this number at 2.5 under a field goal. Same kind of thing to the Missouri Vanderbilt game when it gets up to 3. It doesn't really last too long. So I think a lot of two-way action here. But I do think Iowa State gets the win here and kind of puts a first loss to BYU. I think they've been skating by a little bit, not as lucky and fortunate as last year's BYU team. I think they're a little more legit this year, but this is a tough spot, a tough 4-game stretch here. I think they got their big win over Utah that they were really looking for, but now it kind of tightens up. I think Iowa State really gets it done in a great spot for the Cyclones here. And I also do like the over in this matchup. Thought it should be in the low 50s, so I'll take over 49 and Iowa State in this one to get the big home win and get their season back on track.
As a former head coach, Paisley, in college football, I would say BYU is good. They're not great. They're a good team. They're not a great team. They're not an elite team. So that's my take on BYU. Also, common opponent here. BYU took a lot to knock off Arizona here on the road. Took them double overtime. Really could have lost that game. Iowa State, they handled them when they played them. Yeah. I'd have to go back and rewatch the whole thing, but I do remember that. Iowa State also, like you said, they lost a tough one on the road against Cincinnati. But yeah, I'm all in also on Iowa State here. Just the spot, like you said, deja vu. We see every year with BYU. This is a perfect week for them to lose. It almost seems too easy actually right now. Maybe that's why they're the favorite, which is surprising against top 11 ranked team. But no, give me Iowa State. This one will also likely be on my card. And yeah, they're still very much in the Big 12 too. They have a couple tough losses late here. They lost to Colorado, which was a tough one, but outside of that, the Big 12 is wide open. Like we said, it's the March Madness of college football. I think we're going to continue to see that. We saw Texas Tech lose a couple of weeks ago, so it's wide open. But no, I think this is a perfect week. BYU got the big win a week ago, emotional win. They're going to go here now on the road, and I think they fall short. Also, keep in mind that Iowa State coming off a bye week will certainly help them. Can use that to their advantage while BYU's coming off of that emotional, big rivalry game. So perfect spot play here. We see it every year with BYU. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe they'll continue to run the table. I do think they were like 10-0 the one year, and then they lost their last 2. So maybe they'll string together a couple more wins. But like you said, I think it's only a matter of time here before the losses start coming to BYU.
Yeah, I was looking up their schedule last year, not to compare, exactly the same team. I think they're a little bit better this year, but after the Utah game, next game, lost to Kansas 17-13, then lost the following week to Arizona State 28-23. So, yeah, I think they just don't respond well after that emotional in-state, rivalry there. I think the Cyclones pick them off here.
Over to the Big Ten Conference, East Lansing, Michigan rivalry game. Always a great game every year. Michigan at Michigan State. Michigan State, I mean, we'll just say blunt, they've been awful this year. They've been giving up a ton of points. I mean, I'm looking now here. They lost to Indiana, UCLA, Nebraska, giving up 38, and all of them got blown out by UCLA, which, by the way, they're a good team all of a sudden, UCLA. I still missing something there, but
trying to be a couple weeks ago.
But anyway, Michigan State 0-4 in conference, and they are not playing close games here. Michigan State is getting blown out every week. Anyway, to say that they're at home, it is a rivalry game, Paisley. We see it every year. We see it between Alabama and Auburn. No matter how good one team is, there's always a shot. We see it between Ohio State and Michigan. Michigan was a joke last year, 20-point dog. They go out, they beat Ohio State outright. Could this be any different? I don't know. Michigan's laying 14.5. That seems like a lot of points in a rivalry game. They probably deserve to be 14.5 point favorite, considering I don't think Michigan State's been within 2 touchdowns in any of their games, with the exception of I guess Nebraska. Wow, that was 11. Okay, so still two possessions there. Nonetheless, Michigan laying 14.5. Kind of a strange team this year. Michigan, they've looked good at times. They have the 2 losses. They looked pretty bad when they went out to USC, but that was, they had to travel cross country. And then a week ago, they looked good against Washington. Look, they didn't put up a ton of yards, but they needed to do. They did what they needed to do in that game. They won handily, 24-7. Never really felt like a game. But I'm glad we're talking about it. It's a rivalry game. Get your thoughts on it. Total is at 48.5. And this one, Michigan laying 14.5 in a rivalry game.
Yeah, I think that's a great comparison you put with the Alabama and Auburn in college terms, because I think that's exactly where I'm kind of leaning with my pick. I feel like no matter the spread, no matter how big or great the teams are, I feel like it's always just a close game. So now you got to go with this Michigan team that is still struggling offensively. Washington's defense is not that great, and they kind of struggled to put up 24 points at home after that embarrassing performance at USC. So, MSU's defense is not that great. They're on the road, Michigan. I just don't see them putting up a ton of points or really flying past this number here. So not a play that I absolutely love, but I'll put a unit on Michigan State plus 14.5. I'll take the underdog here. The line's kind of suggesting they want some underdog money, but I think it's going to be closer than people think. Michigan State, like you said, the results haven't been there, but they've been looking somewhat competitive in their games, except for the UCLA game. But like you said, maybe they're a powerhouse. I think they come back down to earth in the Indiana game. I think Indiana puts one on them, but little bonus pick there for our fans out there. But I think Indiana, they showed well against Indiana for the most part relative to the spread. It was a 26.5 point spread. Now, I think they did kick a field goal with a couple seconds left to cover the number there, but that's also a good thing to keep in mind, that maybe Michigan State coach knows the spread there and will do things to cover this 14.5. So if you're not going to be good, at least cover some of the spread, maybe win your boosters some money. But yeah, I think they looked, okay in some of these games. Childs is kind of playing kind of pretty good as the quarterback of Michigan State. It's been their defense that's really been letting them down. So I think maybe for a rivalry game at home against a not that great offense that does just like to run the ball, maybe they'll get up for this one. Maybe they'll game plan a little bit differently, show a little more emotion. So that's where I'll kind of put more stock on the defensive side of the ball in these rivalry games to kind of ramp it up a little bit and batten down the hatches. But I feel like the offense has actually been playing okay, and I think they'll score a couple points here. I think it's going to be a lower, grinded-out game. I wouldn't mind the under maybe, but don't love it. But I do think Michigan State keeps this close and definitely keeps it within 2 touchdowns. So I'm not sure if it's going to find that its way onto the card. I got to do a little more digging into it, but I think Childs does enough. Underwood's a great quarterback, but like we said, don't really trust the supporting cast around them. Now Michigan all of a sudden is feeling themselves again. It's just a freaking roller coaster with them every week. It's our team's terrible. Everyone should be fired. Now it's, we're the best team in the country again. So I think if you're following the roller coaster, they do not do well after they keep patting themselves on the back. They do like to come back and put their blue collar on and beat up on a bad Washington team at home. But I think they're feeling themselves a little too much. They're going into the hostile territory, Michigan State. I think they'll get up for this one, the Spartans. So I don't know if they'll win it outright, not calling that, but I think they'll keep it close within the 2 touchdowns.
I like what you did there, Paisley, mentioning the blue collar thing with the whole Sharon Moore his costume that he was wearing. Yeah, that just ticked me off actually thinking about it. Yeah, I'm on Michigan State here also with the points, kind of for the same reasons you just said and how like I opened up the game. But yeah, these rivalry games, this Michigan team is not anything that we've seen years past. This is not a high-powered offense, like you just said. The offense is not very good, and yeah, you're at home. This is a game I think they could get up for. Rolling the tape all the way back to why I took South Carolina and against Alabama. It's just kind of another spot play here, I think, for Michigan State. Also, not 100% sure I'll have it on my card, but if I pick right now, I take Michigan State. And honestly, I'm starting to like it the more I think about it. It's also at night, prime time, probably the last big home game of the season. Why, and it's really one at this point, you're also just playing spoiler. You want to get the game a rivalry win. A lot of these players in Michigan, this is, an in-state game. They probably, some of them have played high school against each other. At least, that's what it's very possible. Alabama, Auburn, you see the same thing. So it will definitely be, I think, a closer game than people are thinking. Maybe Michigan covers late. Like that would be my only concern, that like Michigan, I do think, is better. So maybe they're up by, 10, 13, 10 to 17. And then late in the fourth quarter, that's sometimes when you see some of these spreads just get blown apart. If Michigan, has a couple late scores in the fourth quarter. But I do think this thing is going to be pretty close. In agreement, not saying they outright win, but at home rivalry game. That's two touchdowns, over the 2 touchdowns here. Yeah, I like Michigan State here. I'm glad we put it on the card here to talk about. All right, moving on. We got SEC play. A&M at LSU, huge game for really both teams. LSU in must-win situation now at this point in the season after losing to Vanderbilt last week. Some are saying it may not even be enough for LSU at this point, but they got to run the table. Every game's a playoff game for them here at this point. And then A&M, undefeated still in the SEC, and overall, they look really good. But Paisley, they got to go to Tiger Stadium, which some people, you take a poll of people, they say it's the toughest place to play at night. The stakes are high. Is this where A&M finally trips up? Only given 2.5, really tight game. Vegas is projecting this thing to be totals at 48.5. Outside of the Vandy game, this is probably the second best game, at least at night. Oh, it's going to be great to watch. A&M at LSU.
Case, hate to do it here. I have no reasoning really behind this pick here, but I just feel like LSU gets it done here. I think they get the win. I think they upset the way college football's going. When people even think they're going to be down, everyone's talking up Texas A&M. I think they're up to number 3 now in the country. Okay, they're going to cruise them in Alabama. Like we were talking last week. Okay, they're really separating themselves. I had some pause though watching that Arkansas game last week. That was a game that not a lot of people were probably watching because the Georgia game was going on at that time too. But Arkansas really hung in that game, and they put up 527 yards of offense on this Texas A&M defense. So do I expect LSU to do that? No, because their offense is not that great. But I think it's going to be they're going to try and grind it down. Their defense has a couple injuries. That's the only things, but I think it's indicating that they're going to have some key players back for this one that weren't available for the Vanderbilt game. I think, like you said, just at home spot. Everyone's expecting Texas A&M. I initially, when I first saw this line, was going to hammer Texas A&M. I'm like, I love Texas A&M, hate Brian Kelly, hate LSU. But I don't know, Case. I'm just getting a feeling from something up above. I don't know. I just think LSU gets this game. No one wants to pick them. They looked okay against Vanderbilt. I thought they actually could have looked worse, but their offense actually looked better than I thought. So maybe they're finding a little something there. I still don't think they're a dynamic offense, but to go on the road and put up 24 and stay kind of within that game, I thought was impressive. And then Texas A&M just really, I just think you got to be a cut above, or you got to be separating yourself kind of like Alabama is to be a top tier SEC team to run through these, the schedule and stuff like that. Arkansas is kind of down in the dumps, but they are playing some better ball. And I think Texas A&M just tripping up like that. I just don't believe in Texas A&M being that elite team. I think Alabama now is by themselves at 1 in the SEC, and then I think I'd put Alabama or Texas A&M in the top tier, the second tier, but I don't think they're in that top tier with Alabama or number 3 in the country. So I think LSU picks them off here in this crazy SEC back and forth, upsets all the time. I don't know, kind of similar maybe to that Florida-Texas spot. It's a whole different game, but just kind of home crowd. They got the spot. I think they'll get up for this game after that bad loss to Vanderbilt. Brian Kelly's name's getting thrown around for being fired. So I think if there ever is a game that he should be dialed in and focused, it should be this one. So I don't know, Case, not a lot of stats to back this one up, but I just have a feeling LSU is going to pull this one out. I do like them at 3. I did take them at +3, so make sure if you're grabbing LSU, there is some 3s that pop up, so I am surprised it's coming down to 2.5, but try and get a 3 if you like LSU. Obviously, get the 2.5 if you like Texas A&M, but I think they struggle a little bit in the toughest place to play in the country. No shot at the whiteout there at Penn State, but LSU I think gets it done here at home, and they get a win when no one's expecting them to win.
Yeah, Paisley. Well, somebody on this podcast once said that they think A&M might be a little bit overrated a few weeks ago. That was myself. I was a little hesitant on A&M also. And yeah, they are on the road. It does just feel like a spot play. How much could A&M take? Will they keep winning? Like you said, they didn't look great against Arkansas. I didn't realize they gave up that many yards. I saw the points. They gave up 42 points, but geez, over 500 yards. We shouldn't do this because I know A&M now is going to go in and blow them out. But I also really like LSU here. I think they're going to win the game. I just think we're going to get a loss. I know when you picked LSU, I didn't think you were going to. I thought I was going to counter and just give my counter on the upset. But I also see that. I envision Saturday night, LSU getting a big win at home because, like you said, everybody's writing them off, but yet the spread's not. The spread indicates it's going to be a really tight game, and I just think it is. I think it's a moment where LSU's at home. They're also, there's something about a team when they're, back against the wall. They got to win this game after the Vandy loss and the Ole Miss loss. They have 2 SEC losses now, so they need this one. And I also just don't think A&M is that elite team. I think they're really good. I think they're a great team. I think, could they win the national championship? Sure. Maybe they can. But what we've seen with the whole, and I don't mean to make this a whole big picture thing now, but, the results of NIL and, the changing of college football, you're getting these rosters that, some of them are really top heavy and they don't have the depth. You're just getting a lot more sporadic athletes. You're not getting these just, 5 or 6 obvious national championship teams. I think A&M definitely could win, but I could also see them going here to LSU and losing. I don't think they're that elite team that shoe in the SEC, even though they're number 3 and unbeaten. So yeah, I like LSU here. I really do think they're going to pull off the upset at home. You saying you like LSU makes me question it now. I'm still in my head, questioning maybe by Saturday on my card will be opposite, or maybe I'll leave it alone at least. But no, leaning one direction right now. Yeah, I'm as well on LSU. I have a lot of faith in Brian Kelly, Paisley. I think he's a great coach.
That's great. He might be the Penn State head coach next year, so you better like him. But just one last point too. I just don't like this Texas A&M defense. I just don't think they're that good. They had some good performances defensively against Auburn and Florida, Mississippi State, but how great offensively are those teams? But I'm just telling you, they've been kind of skating by. You look back to that Notre Dame game, winning by 1 point, kind of got a break there. They really haven't looked great. It was 7-3 against Mississippi State at halftime at home. The only game they kind of looked good was Florida, and they actually had a chance to kind of cover that late. So I'm with you, Case. I think, I don't know, for all these factors, I hate to put a damper on your LSU pick, but I do like them myself. So we'll see how it plays out now.
Yeah, all right. So both PB betting all in here on LSU this weekend. Scary situation.
What could go wrong?
Anyway, moving on to the picks, and we'll get to the underdog parlay of the week. I know we're approaching the hour. Paisley, a lot of great games. Covered a lot. Still some things we didn't cover. Which one of your picks that you like this week?
Yeah, I'm going to stick it in the SEC. I do like all my picks a lot this week. We'll see how that goes. But I'm going to go with the Arkansas Razorbacks. We just talked about them. They're at home, laying 1.5 to Auburn coming into town. I just think Arkansas is a completely different team right now. They're playing a lot better. Got Bobby Petrino back at the helm. Their offense is humming. Taylor Green's playing really good. And the defense is quietly getting better. Now, they didn't look great against Texas A&M, but I think Texas A&M does have a good offense. I'll give them that. But they really could. They were in that Texas A&M game. They could have upset them in that one there. I think Auburn, like we talked about last week, they're just broken. They're done. It was at 4 in a row. Now they lost. Hugh Freeze definitely gone. Like, just a very, very disappointing season. So I didn't know if they had enough juice last week against Missouri. I think their juice is completely squeezed here. I think Arkansas gets it done as the short favorite here. Look to get them on the money line. But I think Arkansas playing a little bit better football. Auburn on the downcline. Give me Arkansas here.
No, I like it. I like taking teams too on the trajectory of their season. So clearly Auburn going down, Arkansas's trending up a little bit, even though Auburn still on paper might be the slightly better team. It's where they meet, Paisley. It's that trajectory. I've always been a big fan of that. So I wish my scorecard, my betting was better, basing my opinions off of that. But I do like that. Also, would be in agreement here, taking Arkansas -1.5. My first pick here, I'm sticking it in the Big Ten. Paisley. We want to talk about disrespect. Mentioned Illinois earlier. Well, you got the Northwestern Wildcats sitting 3-1 in the Big Ten, 2-loss team right now. Not sure where their AP number top 25 ranking is because it seems to be missing here on my sheet. But Northwestern getting 8.5 points here at Nebraska. I think I don't know, we're giving way too much credit to Nebraska all of a sudden. I know I was high on them. They were a team I picked to make the playoff. Well, they looked absolute terrible against Minnesota a week ago. We were both on Minnesota. That seemed like it was the easiest pick of the week, if not the year. We both said it, and it actually came true. So that was one positive. But they also squeezed by Maryland. It could have been a loss. They didn't look good against Michigan State. It's hard not to look good against Michigan State. Well, that was their closest game that they played. And then you got Northwestern, who's coming off of a huge shutout last week against the mighty Purdue Boilermakers. I know Purdue isn't that great, but you were on Purdue, Paisley, a week ago. I like Purdue. I think a lot of people did. They played really good. They beat Penn State at home, or on the road. So, I mean, Penn State's a mess right now, but still, talk about athletes and talent all over the field. Still not an easy thing to do, no matter the team. I just think 8.5 points. Are you kidding me? Like I'm missing something here. I just think this is going to be an easy one for me. Give me Northwestern +8.5. I didn't mean to make that go 5 minutes, but this angered me, Paisley, when I saw it. Angered me. 8.5, easy.
I actually completely agree with you, Case. I was very shocked. This line was the way it was, and actually it's going up. And opened 6.5, got through 7. I bet it's 7.5. Actually, I thought it was going to come back down. Now it's up to 8.5. Might have to put a little more on it, but I'm with you. I think the disrespect is real. What is Nebraska to be laying that many points against a solid, not great, but solid Northwestern team? I think they could run the ball and do a lot of things. And it'll segue right into my next pick, Case. We're going to roll the dice again with Minnesota, a team that looked really good against Nebraska, +8.5 here going to Iowa. Now, obviously, definitely a different beast going on the road to Iowa here, but Iowa did not look that impressive last week against a kind of lifeless Penn State team. Squeaked it out by 1. They were kind of down the whole game, had to fight back. Now I got to trust this Iowa offense to win by 10 plus potentially. Like, no thanks. I think Minnesota, like you said, like Northwestern, kind of getting a little disrespected in the market. I think they're actually an okay team. They looked really solid in that big spot like we talked about last week. I think they're playing some good ball. They beat Rutgers early in the year. They beat Buffalo, who's a good MAC team. They beat Purdue by 7, who we said, is okay. A lot of people do like them. But I just think, again, there's too many points. I don't know if they can win this game outright, but Iowa likes to play in these slogs, really run the ball, shrink the game down, and Minnesota likes to do the same. So I just think it's going to be a low-scoring game, total in the 39 range, I think, 38. So I'll definitely take the team getting close to 10 points. I think it's going to be a very close matchup. Wouldn't be shocked if Minnesota gets the outright win here.
I like it. 2 old school Big Ten West teams taking both of them with the points here. Love to see it. All right, my second pick here, I am going to a team that I don't think I have bet on in a long time, Washington State. The Washington State Cougars really have been under the radar for me. They've been playing so bad, but here they are in a spot at home. You got the Toledo Rockets coming to town. It's practically a pick'em game, only 1.5 points here. Washington State was really bad early in the season. They got blown out by North Texas, and I was like, oh my God, they're the worst team ever to play Division I football. But back-to-back weeks on the road, got to travel cross-country, by the way. Top 10 Ole Miss, nearly knock them off. A really good Virginia team, keep in mind, traveling across the country, almost knocked them off. And I know they were probably sleepy games, and both those teams, I'm sure, did not bring their A game, let alone maybe their C game in that one. But Washington State, I think, is getting a little bit better. I think they're back home here. They're coming off of actually, that's not true. They're not coming off of a bye, but nonetheless, you got Toledo just a little bit opposite. They're going to town. I just like them in the pick'em spot. I think they're playing good enough football right now. So give me Washington State. Also, just happy to put some money on them. Haven't done that in a long time. So shout out to the Washington State Cougars.
Out of the pack too. I love that pick too, Case. That one was very close making my card too on this. You beat me to it and love it. Toledo is coming off a couple losses. They really have not been living up to expectations in the MAC. They were supposed to be really good, but I don't think they're a great team. So I think I was very shocked. This was a pick 'em. Like you said, Washington State playing some good ball. So love that pick there. My next one, I'm going to go Mississippi State +7 against Texas. They're at home. welcoming in the big bad Arch Manning in that offense that stinks. So I'll take the team getting 7 points here. I like Mississippi State's offense. Has been really good. I think their defense will kind of play a little bit better at home against a lesser Texas. If no one was watching that Texas-Kentucky game, Kentucky should have beat Texas pretty soundly, but it went to overtime, and Texas got the win in overtime. Arch is not good. I know we backed him that 1 week against Oklahoma, but that's spot betting. I think now they're back to being bad. Defense is still pretty good, but I think it's going to be a grinded-out game. And I think Mississippi State gets it done here at home. This is kind of one that's kind of flying under the radar. Mississippi State kind of should have beat Florida last week. That was a back-and-forth game. They had the lead there in Billy Napier's, swan song there. And that Tennessee game 2 weeks ago, Tennessee's a pretty good team. They should have beat them. There was a couple bad calls late in that game. So I think Mississippi State's getting a little disrespect in the market against the spread-wise. I don't think they're that great, obviously for standings and stuff. But I would not be surprised your case was very, very close to putting them in my underdog parlay here with your pick. So wouldn't be shocked if Mississippi State gets the win out. I think Texas has been playing with a lot of fire, especially in that Kentucky game. But I think now at home, I think Mississippi State could get it done. So I'll definitely take them plus a touchdown.
Yeah, that we didn't really recap it on Sunday night just because it wasn't a big game. But man, Kentucky had them beat Texas. Texas should have lost that game, and I can see that too. Honestly, coming off of another week like that, wouldn't stun me. I really like that pick. Also, Mississippi State +7 against Texas. Yeah, they have no business being in the top 25 right now. All right, my third pick here. I am going with the Stanford Cardinal with a lot of points here, Paisley. 4 touchdowns, 29.5 points. They got to travel all the way to Hard Rock Stadium and play Miami, who just coming off of a bad loss to Louisville last Friday night. This is a weird one. You could look at it 2 ways. You could say, hey, Miami's going to roll them here. They're angry. They're back home again. By the way, first of all, Miami plays a home game every week, I think. Have they been they're at home every single
Florida
week?
State was like their only one, I feel like, on the road.
Yeah. And in Florida, did they even leave the state this year? I really have no idea. It's almost November. I don't think they did. They have another home game. Either way, I don't care. I'm taking Stanford with 29.5. They got to come all the way across country. Stanford, they just beat Florida State. All right. They beat Florida State. I know Florida State's a mess, similar to Penn State and all these other teams, but they have a pulse. Stanford has a pulse, and we'll see how Miami responds. I think there's just a lot of question marks. Are they going to come out defeated? Are they going to come out angry? I don't know. But I've seen so many teams come off of a loss just looking flat. And yeah, that's just a lot of points. 29.5. Do I think they're going to lose outright? No. They'll win the game. Miami will be fine. But 29.5 is too many for me, Paisley.
I actually disagree with that one. Actually, I'm on Miami. I think they get it done. I think they crush Stanford here. But
we'll go a little head to head. We'll go a little head to head.
Head to head, can't go wrong with it. Looking at their schedule, I think they only have 4 road games. Which is that even allowed? Like that's crazy for me.
It's rigged.
But we'll check that at a later episode. But that's kind of crazy.
So they didn't leave the state of Florida then, did they?
No neutral site. Yeah, I did not leave the state of Florida, right? Yeah, they still didn't leave it yet. They're at SMU next week, at Virginia Tech, and at Pitt to end the year, November 22nd, 29th. So it's only four road games, and 3 of them are outside of Florida. So only leave the state 3 times. And
so they've been in the state of Florida. That means through November 1st. That's crazy. They deserve to lose. I might go Stanford money line Paisley now.
I would love that. I would love that for the sake of the college football, but I think they get it done and roll them here. But last pick here, going to go down to some G5 level here. I'm going to go App State, Old Dominion over 62. These teams, the offenses are humming and the defenses have been sucking. They've been really terrible. So I think this one's a little suppressed. I think this will go into the 70s. Just look at their last 2 games. App State, Coastal Carolina, 45-37. And if you look at Old Dominion's last game against JMU, which they got absolutely rocked, that game was well into the – trying to look it up here. James Madison, I think, was in the 50s, and Old Dominion got in the 30s. So I think it was 80 or 90 total points in that one. So this one is at Old Dominion. I think they bounce back here a little bit, get the offense rolling after that tough JMU loss. But I think there's a ton of points. App State is kind of finding its legs a little bit. Their offense is looking good, but the defense is not great. Coastal is not a great team like we talked about, and they put up 45 on them. So I think Old Dominion's in for a good one here, maybe getting a little 50 piece. So I think this one flies over the total. One of my favorite totals of the week at over 62.
I like it. And you were pretty good on the overs last week, Paisley. When we was going through the scorecard on a lot of these group of 5 teams, I was surprised you hit like 3 or 4, or every over I think you bet on you hit out of the group of 5 at least.
Didn't
So
even notice. I'll take it.
yeah, no, it was a nice play. All right, I like it. App State ODU over 62.5. All right, I don't have a fourth pick, so Paisley, that means it's the time that everybody's been waiting for, the underdog parlay of the week. We did pretty solid this year. We've hit 2 of them. Then Paisley hit a couple that I missed, and then I've hit a few that he missed. So I think overall we're definitely plus units if you took them all straight. But nonetheless, we're tying them together. So Paisley, what is who's your underdog parlay of the week?
Yeah, my leg, I'm going to go down to the Kansas State Wildcats, going on the road to Kansas, a nice little rivalry game there, in-state matchup. They're getting +3 on the spread, but I'll take a money line here, +124 at our friends at DraftKings. No sponsor yet, but hopefully in the future. But yeah, I just think Kansas State is playing some really good ball. I mean, you look at their matchups the last couple of weeks, they've been playing better, kind of going under the radar because everyone really wrote them off after that horrendous start. But I think they're playing really good, and I think the opposite for Kansas. These are 2 teams that I was higher on Kansas, lower on Kansas State a couple weeks ago, but I honestly flipped because Kansas has gotten a little lucky in that win. UCF they had a couple weeks ago. They got thoroughly beat by Cincinnati. And one thing that Kansas does, I feel like I've been betting them every week, so I've been watching a lot of their games. They don't stop the run. And what is Avery Johnson and Kansas State? They've been running the ball really well. They ran the ball for over 200 against a good TCU defense last week. So I think Kansas State is kind of finding something a little bit quietly in the Big Ten. I don't know if they can make a run at it. Maybe they could with how much chaos is going on. But I think they're kind of a team. If they could win this one, look out. I think they could really get a nice little roll going here. But I think Kansas kind of trending down. Kansas State playing some good ball. I think they'll be able to run it here. And I think they kind of own them the last couple of years. So I was kind of surprised to see them as an underdog, even with how poorly they started the year. But I think Kansas State's starting to find it a little bit. So give me them to win outright on the road, +124.
Paisley, I love this pick. I said in the recap a week ago, watch out for Kansas State. They could be making a little bit of a comeback here in the Big 12. I didn't want to get ahead of ourselves, but this is a big one if they could get the win. And just like you said, Kansas is on a little bit of a decline. Kansas State's playing better. I love the trajectory pick again. I'm using that word a lot tonight, trajectory. Anyway, love the pick, Kansas State. +124. I am going Paisley, which it sickens me. It is making me nauseous even thinking that I need to make this my underdog parlay because they should be the favorite in this game. That's how confident I am. Wow. Illinois Fighting Illini to defeat Washington +160. They're getting 4.5 points. I don't need any of the points. I might even lay a couple points with Illinois. That's how confident I am. They have 2 losses, the number 1 and the number 2 team in the country. Illinois should be ranked 14th at least, or 10th, or whatever you want to rank them, not 23rd. They're really good. And I think they go out there, Paisley, and they win this game outright. And I think they win it by a touchdown. I like Illinois in this one a lot.
Now that's confidence, people, right there. And I love backing our guy Altmaier. He's a great quarterback. Let's see if we get it down the road. I love it. So if you combine those 2 +491, so not as much juice we've been doing, but still a nice close to 5-1 here. So it'd be a nice little payout, whatever units you want to put on.
I love it. +491. We're due to hit one. Illinois and Kansas State to win outright. We will be back on Sunday night recapping all the results. Stay safe, have a beer, enjoy another weekend of college football.